It seems level four autonomy for self-driving is happening before our eyes with the Tesla FSD 12.3 and later versions of FSD. This is something that is going to catch many people by surprise. And even longtime Tesla analysts like Gary Black, I think, would be very surprised at these developments and the speed with which it's happening. Even though they're seeing 12.3 videos right now, they're still discounting it as a possibility of getting to full level four. So level four is that you can basically stop paying attention so much. You still have to have the driver behind the wheel, but the level of attention would drop significantly from level three.
I think
Uh,
don't they talk in terms of you have to be able to respond to a command from the display within a certain number of seconds, maybe 10 seconds or something.
right, right. But it's different from level three because level three can also stop paying attention a bit. So the current level where you have nags, you can touch the wheel, that level of attention is kind of like level 2.5. So then it would relax slightly. So, but you still have to stay behind the wheel up until level five, which is a kind of unusual metric for these kind of things. But basically, at level four, it does the driving for you virtually completely. You just have to be there just in case
Right.
to a certain level. Um, and other people like Michael Dell, CEO Dell, has said that the existing version, 12.3, is already very amazing. He calls it human-like, and he's super impressed by it. So level four, so basically, still driving, you're still behind the wheel, but basically it's doing the work for you almost all the time. So for the Tesla stockholders who've been so beaten down this year, done the worst of the SP 500 stocks, they kept worrying about, oh, we need more advertising to sell more cars, worried about the margin, worried about the car sales. They were dismissing the ARK Invest robotaxi scenario where it, everyone we get to replace the driver. But all of these things, and there's a licensing way for Ford and other companies start licensing the self-driving. All these things could start happening this year. Not the robotaxi, but the step toward it, but the advertising, all these things with a level four. That you have 12.3 now, 12.4 is coming this month. And supposedly the leap from 12.3 to 12.4 is as large as or larger than the leap from 12.2 or 11 up to 12.3, which is a 3x to 10x improvement if you're looking at the miles per disengagement.
Right.
And it's being rolled out to all Tesla owners in the United States, and then a 1 month free trial. And that could also happen in Europe and China. So I think this is the best advertising for Tesla vehicles that you could possibly have, is to have FSD at this level, and then going beyond that, literally in weeks.
Yeah, so right now with a 30-day free trial, you have a couple of three different ways that this happens. One is you go to pick up your new vehicle. So when you go to get your new vehicle, they're now going to make you, of course, they're not going to make you, but they're going to try their best to get you after you pick up your new vehicle to go on a 20, 30-minute ride with an individual from Tesla, with their customer service people, and have them drive you around with the FSD so you can see how it works, get used to it a little bit, understand it in a little depth. Once you've done that, then you have the opportunity to say to the customer service person that you'd like to continue your 30-day free trial, and it's loaded, ready to go. All you just don't turn it off. So you have it now for 30 days. In fact, I believe right now there's even a deal where you get it for 3 months for free when you make the purchase. So the you know what we do when we get a new car. We go home and we want to show off all of this stuff. I can remember, especially when I got my Acura, I got the very first year that Acura came out. It had all kinds of fun things that no other car had ever done. And so it was fun to get somebody in the front seat and say, "Can you believe it does this? And can you believe it does that?" But can you believe that it drives itself like through pedestrians and cats and dogs and commuter rushes and everything else? And so that kind of advertising is really hard to beat. Word of mouth. I'm a marketing guy. That's what I've done my whole life. Word of mouth is by far the best marketing you can get. But then you're also going to have people that are just going to get to turn it on at home that didn't pay the 12,000 or 8 or 10 or whatever, depending on when you bought it. They didn't pay the money, but now if they want to, they can try it at home for 30 days for free and then continue on either by paying, I believe right now it's 12,000
Right.
or by paying 200 a month if you want to continue after the 30 days. Once again, what are people going to do? People that have, you know, never thought about it before. Okay, let's try it. Now let me show my neighbor. So more advertising and more advertising. Yeah.
Right. And the other fact is that as they buy more of them, that this will also affect the margins. So this is a bit of an eye test here, but basically Gary Black is saying that if you just look on the right side, that the main points that he sees for Tesla share price going up is if the price hikes and gross margin percentage bottom out. And then he also talked about FE take rate increases and licensing deals happen. So those are two directly related to FSD. I have 18 points that relate to how FSD will impact the stock,
Okay.
which we can go through some other time, but it's a detailed list. Basically, it's like if it comes off beta, which it gone to unsupervised to supervised, then that could change the revenue recognition, which affects the earnings. The free trial can be very positive. We were discussed that, get a lot of signups. And then 12.4, 12.5 in April and May. So Kathy Wood, who's of ARK Invest, talks about the four main points is for AI stocks: domain expertise. So Tesla knows cars, the
In other words,
domain.
let me see if I understand where you're going with this. So you're saying Kathy Wood, who was recognized 2 years ago, I think 2 years ago, as being the top investment firm in the country. She does ARK Invest, which are what do you call them?
A
Exchange traded,
fund,
exchange traded.
investment fund,
She
ETF.
was the number one in the country. I think it got front page news all over the place. She has been talking about FSD and robotaxis for a very, very long time. But just in general, one of the things her company does, they do deep investigations, and they're doing deep investigations right now into AI across multiple industries. And
Yep.
so, if I understand you right, you're saying right here is these are the things that they've characterized as what makes a company an AI company,
Yep.
what can make them a leader in leadership in the AI world.
Right. And so she's identified these four characteristics as something that Tesla has: global reach, proprietary data, all the driving data. And this is why they'll have a moat going to all the way to robotaxi. But even before that, my point is that the profits and the margins this year could be dramatically impacted. If there were 21,000 FSD sales, so of the 1.8 million people in the US and Canada being offered this, soon 1.5 million in China and 1 million in Europe. If we were to get 10 to 20% of the people in US and Canada to get it, 10 to 30% in China, 10% in Europe, then we're looking at 500,000 on the low end and close to 1 million on the high end. And those 500,000 sales will be like the profit from 700,000 cars. So something that has been debated a long time on the various sites is, in 2024, will there be 2 million sales of Tesla cars, 2.1 million, or with a bad number in the Q1, are we down to 1.9 million, maybe 1.8 million cars? FSD could give us a profit of 700,000 cars. So even if we had the 1.8 million, then you'd be at 2.5 million car profits. And people like Gary Black, who roll in the FSD autopilot revenue into the regular car revenue, are making a big mistake if this becomes a major factor, like it could happen when you go to level 4. That you can't just assume, oh, it's only going to be 2% increase in that because it's a completely unique capability that gives far more benefit of being a virtual chauffeur, which there are virtual regular chauffeurs in China, Philippines, other Asian countries because they have lower wages. They hire people to drive people around, and it's a thing where they need to have it parked and that kind of thing. So if you have full self-driving, this would be something that they could be surprisingly large adoption. The other thing would be that China, even though China has more lower per capita income, there are far more wealthy people in China. People who, and they buy over half of the luxury goods in the world. LV bags, Gucci bags, diamonds, all those things are bought more in China than the rest of the world. So if they see the full self-driving Tesla car as being a luxury status symbol, something that they can flex on their other rich buddies with, or to prevent being flexed on. Whereas like, okay, I got it, then everyone else has to have it now too. The adopt rate, that could see the adopt rate go to that 30% number if they see that benefit.
I also think that I haven't heard anybody talking about this, but once you actually have, like for instance, right now, this very first month of the rollout of the 30-day free offer, up until now, Tesla hasn't experimented very much with the price of FSD. But we have to remember that the cost of FSD is almost zero. I mean, there's going to be some customer service follow-up and whatnot, but it's pretty close to zero. So you can really, really play with the price point. If you're dealing with people that are turning off after their 30 days are turning it off, well, it doesn't take very much to send out an email to that person or to that group of people that's turning it off and say, would you be interested in trying it for another 30 days for $100 a month?
Mm-hmm.
And test the $100 a month. See what percentage of uptake you have at $100 a month. Or maybe you start trying with different methodologies of charging instead of just $200 a month for everybody. Maybe it's per mile. Maybe it's if you're less than 10,000 miles a year, it's only $100 a month. There's all kinds of ways that they could test once you've got a large enough group of people that are making a real decision about it, where it is not, it's no longer, I don't want it because it doesn't work that well. It's I want it, but I'm not sure what I'm willing to pay.
Right. And then also things like if there's improved safety, then if you have a corporate vehicle,
Yeah.
then it could become, a necessary thing
Yep.
to do the safer option, if it's 5 times safer, 10 times safer.
Right.
And then all the car companies, also Uber, all these companies with fleets will be looking at this happening, seeing, like we saw Dell, CEO
Right.
Michael Dell, saying that it was amazing. They could say, I need it for my corporate fleet.
Mm-hmm.
I need, Ford will say, I need to license this. And if they do license it, one, it'll be like a larger version of the charging network adoption last year, where basically Ford adopted first, and then within 150 days, all the others had adopted it. In North America, didn't have that here. But basically, then of the potential 70 million new cars, if you just had the license companies globally doing it, and you said, okay, 10% licensed cars, the fleets adopt it, then that's 7 million per year. So the debate about can we get to 20 million Tesla cars in 2030 becomes, can we get 20 million licensed FSDs into all cars by 2030? I think the answer could be a far stronger yes on that. And again, the combination of FSD profits being more than the profit of a regular car, a regular
Yes.
Tesla, mean that you need to combine those numbers.
Well,
How many FSDs, how many cars?
and even with licensing, Cern Basher just did an analysis where at $200 a month, if Tesla was taking 60% of the split with companies that it licensed to, you would be looking at $1,400 a year per car that was being licensed. And the other company that was participating at $1,000 a month per year per car per year would be very happy to take that $1,000 a year. In fact, some pundits this last week have even been pointing out that it's been a very rare thing indeed for car companies to get any kind of SaaS, software as a service, or continuing revenue other than things like insurance or product warranties. It's very hard for them to get this continuing revenue. This would be an absolute, simple way to get continuing revenue for years and years into the future. One other thought, too, that came up in a conversation I had with CERN, this is not going to roll out quickly. We'll notice that the Cybertrucks and the semi-trucks don't have FSD yet. And so there is a whole business of converting the FSD chip and all the knowledge that's in that chip to work with a different set of cameras on a car that goes in a different way, different angles, et cetera, et cetera. All that stuff has got to be worked out. And so the emphasis right now is getting FSD to work perfectly, period. So they don't have as much manpower on the business of getting it onto the Cybertruck. I'm sure that's a high priority, but it hasn't happened yet. Well, if Ford comes into the fold right now, then there's going to be a whole new engineering effort that has to go into each Ford vehicle that is going to be equipped. And then if General Motors follows, or BYD, or some of the ones I've been thinking would be obvious, now every single vehicle is going to have its own setup and layout. I'm sure over time Tesla will find ways to quickly engineer these new versions, but there is going to be a time lag between when the license is created and when the revenue starts.
So I can see of ways to reduce that. One is that as the AI improves, it could train faster with new camera positions. And the other thing would be that you could standardize. So just like Tesla only has a few models, if you were to standardize the rear view mirrors and the other things where you'd be putting the cameras, and say, okay, just like Ford had a very standardized platform, the Taurus or something like that, where you made variations on it, but what had to be kept the same, some body frame, other things. Now it's camera positions and other things that, if that becomes what you describe and CERN describe as a ongoing delay and extra hurdle, that you would then adjust your calculations on variance.
I think it's realistic, based on my conversations. I think it's realistic to think that if we made a deal with Ford tomorrow, you're looking at probably a year and a half before the first one rolls out that's ready to go. Because either it's going to have to be retrofitted to their style, or it's going to have to be Ford retrofitting themselves to the camera, as you just pointed out. Either way, I think you're probably looking at a year and a half from licensing to the first vehicles having the product.
But in terms of the impact, like we were discussing for Tesla share price, is that once the deal happens,
immediate.
The immediate. Plus, also, as CERN pointed out, Tesla has spent $10-20 billion already developing the software, and still has more R&D to go. So they would say, licensee, you must pay for this adjustment period, the cost of that, and you must chip in against our original $10-20 billion. And so you need to give us some billions of dollars up front to get going on this activity. And if you don't, then we'll go to the next person on it. So when they all choose to do it, it could be a large set of upfront payments that could hit the bottom line for Tesla this year.
Very well could, absolutely. But as you point out, it would just be, we saw the huge impact that the stock price got when the North America charging standard went to Ford and then to General Motors. That really had the stock pop. Imagine the difference between that and having even one company say they're going to do FSD. No, that would be huge.
So it would be the FSD can now do U-turns, and basically the Tesla share price would be doing a U-turn. It's been going down for almost 2 years now, and from peak of 400, and then got as low as 100, and now it's at 170. But that the amount of whiplash from going up where it suddenly goes to 300, 400, $500. Because if you are selling a lot of software, have those deals in place, all the analysts who are saying it's just a car company that has massive software sales, have massive AI. So then you would become a AI price earnings multiple, a software price
Yeah.
earnings multiple, and there'd be no question about it because I just signed up, the 10 largest, 20 largest car companies in the world with licensing for it, and my own FSD software went from $2 billion a year up to $10 billion a year, right? Which is almost pure profit. So it would be more than the profit from the cars,
Yeah.
right? So that, it would be like the transition from Amazon going from just an internet e-commerce company to a cloud computing company, which they did, well, 15, 20 years ago. So Tesla would be going from a car company with potential of software and all these other things to an actual car and technology and software and AI company where this is a major component. And that transformation could be over the next few months, like literally three times better, 12.4, three times better this month, three times better, 12.5 next month or the month after. That 20x improvement to get to 12,000 miles per intervention, 15,000 miles per intervention, up at the Waymo level for a Waymo doing it at a hyper mapped small zone with less than 1,000 vehicles to Tesla doing it with 6 million, 8 million vehicles by the end of the year.
Entirely possible. That would be as conservative as I thought your earlier numbers were. That would be maybe an Elon Musk level of optimism for when we hit level 4 and level 5.
Yeah.
But it is possible because you're looking at a Chat GPT moment.
Yeah.
And while Chat GPT continues to hallucinate and continues to make really significant mistakes, this is on a whole different level of what's gone before. So the engineers at Tesla kind of know. I've spent hours, I'm sure you have too, Brian, thinking about the edge cases.
Mhm.
My favorites were things like massive pedestrian crossings during rush hours, where the car is trying to manipulate people crossing against the red light, crossing with the red light, and you know, doing all these nonsense things. People going like this. Come on, it's okay, you can go. So hand signals and such as that. All kinds of these edge cases that are hard to imagine. Snow on an unmarked road, on an unmarked curvy road in the mountains, stuff like that. There's so many edge cases, and yet the Tesla engineers not only have they been just like you and I have been thinking about these edge cases, at this point, they've probably seen about 99.999 of the edge cases that are possible because of the millions of miles of video that's come in.
So in some of the video from Ashok Ramaswamy, the autopilot director at autopilot software director at Tesla, he released videos of that. One showing a Tesla going off road, like going onto a dirt road away from the regular road because the regular road being under construction. And then another one where there was a oncoming truck, and I probably that was from a regular Twitter user, an oncoming truck, and that person, the FSD, went over a small curb by about a foot in order to let the truck have the room to go. So all those cases of, oh, can we handle a trolley situation where I need to take the better of a bad option or get killed or run into several people, it's actually have in there is shown that it can do it.
Yeah.
That it's made the choice of I don't want to get hit by this vehicle. I'm going over the curb in order to avoid it, and I need to go completely off the road in order to avoid the bad situation, and something that maybe not all people will be able to make that call in such a extreme situation is being already shown by Tesla videos that exist now. Um, Farzad has 18 of those kind of jaw-dropping videos of it making those kind of choices. So it's when we say that it's going to happen, people need to look at these kind of videos to say it's far, far closer than that. And this is with 12.3.3 or 12.3.1. And in weeks, we could have an even better version with 12.4 and 12.5 like next month. So the step changes are are huge. It's like when we were going from not having a bad Go program that could barely play to beating a master expert player and then being a grandmaster. It happened in a very short period of time, going from kind of okay to like world class good, and going from a okay teenager like driver to best driver in the world. That distance is big for us, but for a computer AI system could be very small.
Especially because they said that they no longer are compute constrained. So
Right.
if you have plenty of data, you have plenty of compute, and then you have plenty of really talented engineers. Yeah, I mean, again, I call your estimate optimistic, and yet at the same time, it could happen. I mean, it really could. It's not impossible.
And this is something that people may say, okay, you guys being too optimistic now. Replay this video in
Yeah,
like 3 months, in 6 months, and then a year, and then
we'll see where
see,
we are.
were we too optimistic or too pessimistic? That did, you know, if like Elon played a video from a year ago where he talked about um, um, AI and FSD, getting to a ChatGPT moment in a year's time, and he played that video because it's kind of happening. Something that we could be playing in 6 months is okay. The licensing has happened. 12.4 is great. All robotaxi. It'll be in these videos that we can say, we called it. And people may not have noticed how important it was, but hopefully, in 6 months they'll be saying, oh, they were right. Yeah.
Yeah, for those watching who have not been paying close attention to this, we encourage you to go over to X and just look up some of the videos that people are playing. Chuck
Cook.
Cook would be a really good one.
Or I just summarized several, so you can
Summarize,
go to.
but you can go on and take a look at these because at this point we've got people that are taking half-hour trips, hour trips through the city, not just on the freeways, but through the cities, going in very tough situations with pedestrians and bicycles and dogs and cats and the whole nine yards, and having zero interruptions in a 30-minute or an hour drive. Not just once in a while, no, commonly day after day, we're seeing videos like this from, I would call them the professional testers, the people that have been testing all along, who now have received this one. James Dalma is maybe almost as smart as Brian Wong. I don't know. It's going to be a close competition, but
He's smarter.
but in the world of Tesla, as we look around at the community and who are held up in the highest esteem, I think James Dama probably is at the top of the pack in terms of understanding software, understanding exactly how these kind of systems work. And James Dama was on the other day saying he was literally giddy. And James Dama is not a giddy type of person. He's very scientific, very clear in his thinking. And he was giddy with how good the system is at this point.
Some other points of data, so it's not just opinion, is that there are people who are also saying that they had the free trial only a few days into it and they are buying the software. They either buy the subscription or buy the software. There was some data on that Emmett Peppers, a major Tesla investor, made about $100 million on Tesla options when it went into the S&P 500 and run the fund. He did a survey of his followers on Twitter and asked them, would you buy the software? And 11% said they would, and 8% were considering it.
Mm.
So the 10 to 20% adoption rate would be aligned with that. If you're saying that was skewed because of who is following him, maybe it's 5%. But we're talking about people, of the 1.8 million people, they all already bought a Tesla, right? So it's a question of if they bought a Tesla, bought it early, relatively early, and now have gotten what could be the real FSD robotaxi experience. How many of them would be ones who not like, and then how many of their friends did they convince to buy a Tesla because of that is the question on FSD adoption and the question on car sales.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be an incredible few months. It already has been, even as Tesla stock hasn't been reflecting it. It's been an incredible few months to watch what's happening with FSD, and I think the next few months are going to be earth shattering.
Yes, looking forward to it.